Either you figure it out or somebody figures it out for you. So it's a generational impact when you decide to build a network of good people. If you don't chase your dreams, the universe will give your dreams to somebody else. Somebody has to fulfill it. So if not you, then who? If not now, then when?
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Parker with UPBEAT. Thanks for being back here listening to the show. We've got an amazing guest for you today, Braiden Belnap. What's up, man? How are you?
Doing so good, man. Yourself?
I'm good. I'm just grateful to be back on the podcast with you. For those listening, Braiden has been on the show before. He was on UPBEAT, gosh, a few months ago, or maybe before Christmas or something like that. But
yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad to have you back on here.
It's such a blessing, man. I'm sure we'll talk about it today, but the concept of just building a solid foundation of friendships is one of the most important things in life. I mean, I know we've never actually met each other in person, but I feel like I've met you a million times, and it just shows how strong our friendship is. And I would encourage everybody to get out there and build friendships like that, because supporting one another will just help you amplify your life that much more.
Absolutely. I appreciate you saying that, and I feel the same. I haven't met you in person yet. That's going to happen very soon. I need to come to Utah and hang out with you for a while, but I feel the same way. You know, we've worked together a lot online and virtually and on calls and stuff, so it's been amazing. And yeah, we'll get into it deeper here in the podcast. For those listening, if you are looking to strengthen your network, build stronger relationships, you know, this is a good episode for you to listen to, because Braiden's going to share his story with us, and we'll get into some more tactical things a little bit later. But Braiden, for those who maybe this is their first time hearing you, which if that's the case, I would highly encourage y'all to go listen to his first episode here as well. I'll leave the link in the description. But if you're just introducing yourself to the audience here at UPBEAT, what should they know about you?
First and foremost is my story. It all started when, in a child's eyes, right? I was very young and I felt like I was in the perfect family. I had a mom and dad that were married together. I saw interact together. We had fun. I never worried about food. We played sports. We had vacations. It's perfect. Although one day all that changed. And that's the moment that my mom called me and my siblings downstairs. She said, "Your father and I are getting a divorce." Now, at the time, I wasn't aware of this, but it created three main limiting beliefs. And that was, one, love's not real. Like, I saw our family so loving, and my parents being together, they didn't argue, they didn't fight. And then it changed just like that. Two, you never know what's real or what's fake. I thought everything I was living was so real. Like the sports, the money, the food, like everything was so real to me, but it was all fake in my child's eyes. And then three, I can only rely on myself. If all these people aren't going to be honest with me, I can only rely on me. Now, this was at the tail end of sixth grade, and going into seventh grade, I was already questioning the meaning of life. And within the first quarter of seventh grade, I started down the journey of drugs and petty theft. That's pretty young, right?
Yeah, that's young.
Sometimes I minimize that. I'm like, oh yeah, I smoked weed multiple times a day, every day at the age of 13, 14, and drank alcohol and all this stuff. Like, that's not that bad.
Well, and that's young to be like questioning life like this too. Like, that should be when you're thriving, you're having fun, you've got no worries, you're just chilling with your buddies, but you were not only going down that path of drugs and petty theft, but also really considering, all of life's, questions and wondering, where to go.
Yeah, I was like, what is this? Because at the same time, in this transitionary period, both parents were working 2 to 4 jobs at a time. Like, my dad would drive Uber to be able to pay for Christmas and things of that nature. And by the way, there's a lot of lessons in that as well, because what I learned from that is you figure things out. Like, if you struggle, you don't run to mommy and daddy or whoever it is, to save you. No, you get in the dirt and you figure it out. Is that fun? No. But getting in the dirt and figuring it out and getting your hands dirty, it builds a sense of confidence. Like, yeah, I had a hardship, but I figured out how to get out of it. And once you go through that once or twice or 3 times, at some point you'll never get back to needing to get your hands dirty again, because you learned how to get out and then you stay out of that. So was it hard on us kids at times? And as for my parents, absolutely. But we all learned in the process.
Absolutely. And I just feel like, to kind of go on that tangent of, getting in the dirt and figuring things out, I feel like with adversity, this is going to sound so simple, but like, if you are here and alive today, that is a really big deal, because you've accomplished so much. And that's to anyone, right? Anyone that's here and alive today should be extremely proud of themselves for even just being here and making it through all of life's bullcrap, right? All of the adversity. And no one's immune to adversity. It's going to keep coming. But what I love about, what you just shared is that when you have enough experience pushing through adversity, you tend to be able to navigate future obstacles easier.
Absolutely. Because the other side of that, right, is either you figure it out or somebody figures it out for you. The other aspect, if anybody has ever read The Alchemist, I would encourage everybody to do so, is there's a concept that if you don't chase your dreams, the universe will give your dreams to somebody else. I just want to let you guys all sit in with that again. I'm going to say it again. If you don't chase your dreams, the universe will give your dreams to somebody else. Somebody has to fulfill it. So if not you, then who? If not now, then when, right? Because the other aspect, like I said, somebody else will figure it out for you. If I have a problem and I go to my mom or dad to fix it for me, or a charity or something like that, don't get me wrong, it's good to lean on resources. Like, it's okay to lean on resources. That is not what I'm saying. But if somebody simply solves your problems for you all the time, you won't have the confidence to solve your own. And you'll always rely on that charity. You'll always rely on your parents. You'll always rely on whatever resource consistently solves that problem for you. So if you're needing help, that's okay. We're all human. I need help. Like, I have a wife. I go talk to her about my problems sometimes too. I need help. But we solve for the problem together. The resource should be, hey, this is my goal, and this resource is a stepping stone so that I can get to this goal.
Yeah, it's a tool, but it shouldn't be like your crutch go-to thing all the time.
Exactly.
Amazing. Well, if you don't mind, connect the dots. Like 7th grade, you're going down this bad path of drugs and petty theft. How the heck where did you, I guess, hit rock bottom, and how did you turn things around and ultimately shape this really positive thinking, upward, uplifting life that you're focused on now?
First thing I'll say to this is that for the longest time, I blamed my problems. For the longest time, I blamed the people that were encouraging the drugs and the alcohol. And truthfully, it came down to me. It was me. It was on me solely. I was the loser. I was the one creating that group. I was the one that was creating the drug group. I was a big part of that. So first, I didn't take accountability, and that was a big part of my problems, was me. So I went down this path for, let's call it a year and a half. So 8th grade, 8th and a half grade. Started to see where I was headed. There was not necessarily direct people in my circle that committed suicide, but there's people that was very close to me in the sense of my circle that was often committing suicide. Other aspect is I started to see people around me, not a ton. Like, I was pretty young in the game, but they started going to jail or juvie. And so I started to see where I was headed. And that caused a lot of anxiety, depression, because I wanted to be somebody more, but I was acting out of accordance to that. So naturally, I believed that I was a bad person. I wouldn't say I was a bad person. I was acting as if I was a bad person. I think that's an important
distinction.
So eighth grade to eighth and a half grade, I started to see where I was headed. I wanted more, but I didn't know how to get there. I didn't know who to trust. I didn't want to go talk to mom and dad because they only knew a fraction of what I was doing at the time. And so super high, super drunk in my basement one day, and I hear a voice in the back of my head say, go to the bathroom. And in the moment that I shut the door, light came over me, and immediately I was sober. I hear the words, either you will transform and make an impact, or you will die before you graduate high school. Now, I'd like to say that this was an angel. Maybe it was. I feel like it was. Maybe it was just a voice inside of me, and it was my inner voice of God. Who knows? Either way, it shook me. And in that moment, I looked myself in the eyes in the mirror, and this is the first time in a very, very long time that I saw myself for who I truly was, and not for all the bull crap that I was doing. I saw beneath the dust, right? I walked out and nothing changed. Now this caused enhanced anxiety and enhanced depression, whatever you want to call it. I struggled. I cried more oftentimes in the shower, and I cried myself to bed more oftentimes than I like to admit. But it's the truth. I wanted to be more, but I didn't know how to be more. I wanted to achieve more. I didn't know how to achieve more. Last day in ninth grade, that similar voice came to mind and said, this is your last day to change, or you'll be the same way forever. That day I said goodbye to all of my friends, see you tomorrow. And that day I went home, hopped off all social media, and disconnected myself from absolutely everything that lead me back to drugs, alcohol, petty theft. And I started to transform my own life. And that inspired me to want to do and help be a resource for others to do the same.
That's amazing. So really just like these promptings or like this voice in your head that's giving you the warnings. Again, pretty impressive just at your age at that time, you know, like in high school, like ninth grade, you said is when you're hearing these promptings and stuff, which is, do you think that like most people can experience things like this, or do you think there was something unique to like you and your awareness and like you trying to seek answers maybe?
I think it's I always say awareness is either your gift to transform your life, or it's your gift to ruin your life or stay stuck. The question that I'd have for most people is, are you aware? Are you aware that there's another side? Are you aware that there's a life after this life? Are you aware that you have the ability to communicate to the other side? You know, that sounds really weird and woo-woo and like kind of psycho. But the truth is, like, if you're not aware of it and you don't believe in it, you minimize your chances of being able to experience something like that. When you know your truth, which honestly is a simple choice. Like I run as you know, the podcast, A Journey to Authenticity. Authenticity is a journey and it's a choice. But you have to make the choice to go down that journey to find your true self. And my foundational belief is the moment that you make the choice to become your authentic self and going down the journey to figuring out who that is and who you want to be, you give yourself permission and you open almost a veil to receive from the other side, because you start to seek out goodness. And whatever you seek is what you will find. Now, what I'll say to this is I'm not going to say everybody experiences this. Like, I do believe that I am sensitive to, you could say, the other side in some aspects. When I started to change my life, I'm not joking, I felt like there was like demons trying to pull me down. Like, I remember this vividly. I was out when I was started to change my life. Hanging out with my brother and my cousins, and we were playing hide and go seek outside. But it was dark. And I always wanted to hide with somebody else because I genuinely felt like things were following me around. Like I was like, this thing that I can't see right here is about to kill me. Like it felt
Wow.
like things were crawling at my feet and just trying to tear me down. Like, no, you need to come back to drugs. No, you need to come back to alcohol. No, you need to go still from this person. Like it was so strong. I made a choice and I put this stake in the ground. And I said, absolutely not. Like you guys can screw off and I'm going to go find good. Because at the same time, it almost felt like I was in the middle of a spiritual war. And I know that sounds crazy, but it felt like God was fighting for me, but also the demons were fighting for me. But it was also my choice. And I said, no, I'm choosing God's side. And to answer your question, I believe everybody has the power to choose God's side. And naturally, when you choose God's side and you choose to follow you and God, you will be open to gifts and receiving spiritual messages from the other side.
Yeah, thank you. I absolutely love that. And it's not crazy at all. You know, I think people experience that. I've had my own experiences, maybe not to that extent, but like where I've felt a presence, you know, or felt like, and that's been good or bad. I've had times where I feel really led in the right direction, and other times where you can tell they're like trying to scare the crap out of me to make me fall back to where I was before, you know? And so it's not crazy at all. And there's two big lessons I kind of take away from that I just would want to point out here. And that's one, you know, the power that we have in our ability to make choices, right? Like we can choose. And it will be hard to make the right choice sometimes. Like for you to come out of those addictions and stuff and just be able to make your good choices from that point on, that's freaking hard to do. And that takes courage and that takes a ton of strength. But we have ultimately a ton of power in our ability to make good choices. And then the second kind of takeaway that I had from that was just you get what you're looking for, right? If you put good things into the universe, and if you're seeking good things, and if you're seeking in the proper way, like seeking with the openness of being able to accept whatever opportunities come, and that you're just kind of letting God take the wheel for a sec, you know, and being open to receiving what comes your way, blessings come. And that's a really big one for me right now in my life, as you know, Braiden. I told the listeners this in the previous episode, but I've recently left my job and I did it completely on a whim, not knowing what was next for me, but it just felt right. But I was doing that after prayer and after being open to whatever opportunities come. And I'm in a spot where I'm going to be making a bit more money than I was before. And I'm much happier than I was before. And I'm more fired up than I was before. And I'm at like a really good pivotal moment in my life upwards that I would not be experiencing any of that if I was just staying in that job and not listening to those promptings, or if I was closed off and not praying and not seeking goodness, right? So that's just an example, but I love everything you shared. Just we have power in our choices, and if we're open to, you know, the blessings that can come our way, we'll get what we look for.
And what I'll also say to this is, for anybody out there, everybody has a story. And nobody has your story. And so if you want to make an impact, all you need to be able to do is share your story. For the longest time, I had a hard time with that. Like admitting, hey, like there was times that I did drugs. I stole from people. I stole from people I loved. Stole from my brother. I apologized and we built a relationship since then. I stole money from my mom's boyfriend and I've apologized to him since then. But once you claim accountability of your story and say, hey, this was my past, whatever it was, and you start to apologize to people and you own your outcome, this weight lifts off your shoulders. And you get to tell the story like it's nothing. Like I look at pictures and I'm like, who is that? Oh, that was me? That's crazy. Like, it's not like I identify as a stoner anymore or like things of this nature. I don't identify that. I identify as Braiden Belnap, and that's literally it. Like, I am Braiden Belnap, and that's enough. Claim your story. If you want to make an impact, you have to start by claiming your story. And a lot of claiming your story is first taking accountability and then going and apologizing to some people. And once you've done that, you can talk about your story in public, on stage, on a podcast, or just one-on-one with a stranger at Walmart. And whatever it is, you get to impact that one person, and that's enough.
That's powerful. Yeah, see, that's huge. Because by you claiming your story, not only does it impact you and help you on your journey, but it also, anytime you share the story, you're helping people that are listening. So let's say you're on stage talking to 1,000 people and you share what you just shared here on the podcast. Odds are everyone in attendance will be moved in some way, but also maybe there's 10 people who struggled with drugs previously and have never told anybody, right? And then they start to really change their lives. And that could happen here on this podcast too. You know, we're like on a stage of sorts, right? And so people are listening, that everyone will hear that and be moved. And there's going to be a percentage of them that will hear that and really make some big changes in their lives and own their stories.
Absolutely. I'm really looking for that one wherever I go. Truth is, most people won't transform their lives, which is really unfortunate, Parker.
Hey, I have seen that firsthand, and I'm sure you have too, being, you know, a coach in that space.
Yeah, and the truth is, I've seen it in my own life too, right? There's times that I wasn't willing to transform. Like, my mom will famously quote me, and she'll remind me for the rest of my life, but I used to vape. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. Like, this flavor tastes so good. You know, I get a little nicotine buzz. I was a psycho. Like, I don't know what I was thinking. But me and my mom got in an argument once of why vaping was healthy. And trust me, I lost that battle. And then 2-3 years after I transformed my life, these studies come out of popcorn lungs and how it creates stuff around your heart. She's like, I told you so. And so point being is there's times that I wasn't willing to transform either. But the moment that you are willing to transform and you're willing to listen to outside feedback, even when you don't want to hear it, it helps you on a spirit, mind, and body basis, but also helps you with your relationships. So anybody out there willing to listen to this podcast and truly take feedback, those are the ones I'm looking for.
Amazing. Yeah, and I think they're out there for sure. And that you mentioned relationships, I do want to kind of head that way too. And we can talk about, you know, personal relationships or even just as broad as building a strong network. But truth is too, when you are trying to transform, right, or build your dream life, a big part of that is the people around you, you know, power in proximity, and then also building a strong network. So it's important for people to know, you know, we've talked a lot so far on this episode of transformation in yourself, but you're not alone. People are not alone. They have these circles around them and a broader network. What are your thoughts on that? And maybe what are some secrets that you have to building strong relationships and a strong network?
Everything that I've accomplished in this lifetime is accomplished with the people that I've built a network with. My coaching process, like how I learned how to write a book, I knew somebody. How to start a podcast, I knew somebody. You've been a big part of that, Parker. Me reaching 100 episodes and seamlessly creating a podcast and how to acquire guests, I knew somebody, right? Everything that I've developed, I haven't done alone. And I'm not done yet. I've certainly accomplished a lot of things, but I would assume that you would agree with that, Parker, is that everything that you accomplish, it's linked to somebody. That's the power of network. But it's also the fact that when you build a network, and I hope I'm answering the questions like, why is it important to build a network? Did I hear that right?
Yeah. Yeah, we could definitely go there. Why it's important, and then maybe some things you've done to build yours.
Love it. So the why is one, on a selfish standpoint, it helps you, right? If you want to be a coach, meet a coach that's already doing what you want to do and find a way to provide value to that coach, because naturally that coach will want to help you build your coaching business. If you want to start a podcast, find a successful podcaster, add value, and naturally that podcaster will want to add value to you. So the why behind it on a selfish sense is that when you learned how to network with anybody, you honestly can accomplish anything in life. Because any dream that you have, somebody's already done it. So you just have to go find that one person that's already done it, add value, and then they'll want to naturally help you. On a non-selfish reason is that you can, when you build a network, you can then help anybody that you run into.
I want a book. Oh, I know a guy.
You want a book? I know a guy. You want a podcast and you need help with it? I know a guy. You want to start a car dealership? Oh, I know a guy that can help you with that owns a couple car dealerships. You want to start a social media marketing agency? I know a guy that can help with that. When you have a network, you ultimately become a resource for everybody around you. See, even I know a car dealership. They don't have any podcast. Guess what? If somebody comes and asks me, how do I start a podcast? Let me connect you to a guy. I know a pastor who runs a church. They don't have a podcast. Guess what? If he wanted to start a church podcast, I know a guy. I don't have to have any product or service that's extraordinary to make an impact. I just need to know people. But the cool thing about this, again, as a selfish reason, my kids get to learn from some of the most amazing people because of the network I built. So my question to me is, what are the type of people that I want my kids to learn from? Because they'll listen to me at some point, but our kids are going to look at who we're hanging around. And at some point, they're not going to listen to us. And it's just the truth. Like, I didn't listen to my parents when I was a teenager. Like, look what I did. But I also looked at some of my friends' parents. Some of them were great. Some of them weren't. I want all great people around me. So when my kid goes to school and decides not to listen to mom and dad, they see their friends and they think, what friends should I have? So it's a generational impact when you decide to build a network of good people for your kids.
I love that. I think it's a really unique take on networking too. Definitely outside of what you would normally hear. Like if you look up a YouTube video or listen to a podcast on networking, what you just shared was a really different take. I've never heard, I mean, I've consumed a lot of this kind of content, and I've never heard anybody say, build a network that will be a good example to your kids, right? Who do you want your kids to learn from? Who do you associate with? That's a really cool perspective. So I would just say thanks for that. As far as my tips, I mean, I lean more conversationally, how to like talk to people and build the network. And really all I would say is, I mean, you've touched on it before about, telling your story, but when it comes to properly networking and getting that person on your side, it's allowing space for them to tell their stories and being able to listen to them and listen more than you talk legitimately. And if you talk, ask them more questions about their story, like really put them in this limelight and spotlight where they're able to talk about themselves and share what's important to them. And one, they will be on your side forever, even subconsciously if they don't realize it. People like talking about themselves. So they'll be on your side forever. But two, they're also you're also going to learn everything you need to learn about them when they're talking and telling their stories. You'll learn what's important to them. You'll learn where they're headed. So I love that. And then just my last little tip here for networking would be reach out to people. I don't know why we don't do that more. You know, I've had some big names on the podcast, and I get people in my DMs saying, "How did you land that person?" You know, David Meltzer is huge. How did you get him? Jake Kokolis from The Trust on Netflix. How did you get him? How'd you get Jason Aldean's drummer? You know, like all these different people. And with all of those people, I will tell you, I sent them a message on Instagram. I hung out on their Instagram for a little bit. I liked some photos. I hung out in their comment section for a little bit. I turned on notifications so I could be one of the first to interact. And if I felt like I'd want them to be on my show, I'd just send them a message. And I've done that with a lot of people. And a lot of people haven't answered or have said no, even, or have asked me, "Oh, what's the number of downloads you get?" Or, "Oh, well, maybe if you pay me this," or blah, blah, blah. But there's a small percentage of them that will be like, "Hell yeah, brother, let's do it." You know, so you just got to reach out to people. And I think we overcomplicate networking online anyway, where we immediately put in the doubt and listen to it like, "Oh, they're never going to come on my show, or they're never going to work with me on this project." But you never know unless you try, right?
Absolutely. And that's just it. I mean, the last thing that I'll leave with networking is value, right? It is important to have something of value. And to me, the best thing to add value with is your purpose. Like if you don't know everybody has gifts. God gifted us all gifts. Like, you know that amazing QB on the high school football team that got all the girls that you didn't like. Well, because he got all the girls, like whatever the case is, like he found his purpose young, and that's awesome. Or maybe he just found what he was good at. He didn't like it. You get to go find your purpose now if you haven't found that. And that's just go on an adventure, figure out what you like. Go try painting, art, singing, podcasting, write a book. Like go on an adventure, find what you're good at naturally. From there, figure out what you like. 3, that's what you can mold together and make an impact with. And that's how you add value. So for you and I, podcasting, I and you have like over 300 episodes, which is awesome. You're like 300.
Almost 250.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
We're almost to 300.
Almost. I just launched 100 yesterday. You know how rare it is to have a podcast with over 100 episodes?
Those stats are ridiculous, actually. It's very rare.
So you, like for relating it to our purpose, to be on a podcast with over 250 episodes is super rare. You get to add value immediately, which naturally makes people want to be your friend. Let's be real, right? You have something of value. Me offering somebody a position to be on my podcast is like amazing for certain people, right? And so go find something that is of value that not a lot of people consistently do over time. I'm sure you know this. Name one special person on your podcast that is so special nobody else could do it. Name one. I can't. It's like this multimillionaire that's $500 million worth of net worth. He found what he liked. He found he was good at it naturally. And whether he spent 10 hours a week or 100 hours a week, he just simply never gave up. And he's become a master at it. And that's why he's where he's at today. Does that make him special? Yeah, he's him or her, right? Like I'm Braiden Belnap. Nobody can take that away from me. But on a quote unquote special where nobody else could do it is nonsense. So go find your purpose, dive into it, never quit, and naturally you will actually build a network because people will be attracted to you building a dream life.
Love that. Absolutely love that. And I haven't said this in a while on the podcast. I'm excited to get to say it again. But what you're talking about, I like to think our passions and our purpose and like the things we're talented at and the things we're interested in, all of those things are just little breadcrumbs from God. That's the way I look at it. Like if you are interested in something, like for me as a 9-year-old kid, I was interested in music and specifically beatboxing. I think that I was interested in that as like a hint from God. Like, hey, buddy, this thing right here, you're supposed to pick that up and try it. You know, you're supposed to try it. And even if you fail, you're supposed to love it enough that you're going to become a freaking beast at it and never give it up. And I think that's an important thing too, what you said about never giving up. Some of these things that we try, we're going to feel like aren't meant for us at first because we suck at it. But if it's the right thing, you'll have the interest enough and the passion for it enough that you'll pull through that and put in the work to become great at it.
Well said. They are breadcrumbs from God, and everything is on God's timing. You, like, sometimes the act of letting go and letting go of control is the very thing that you need to allow your dreams to become a reality. For example, like, that's scary. Like, the limiting belief for me was like I could only rely on me. Honestly, a lot of that also correlated to God. It's like putting my life in your hands, like, no, like, you're not here with me. I'm going to take control. And guess what that led me? A lot of stress, a lot of pressure, a lot of frustrations, so on and so forth. The moment that I said, you know what, God, you know what's best for me. Like, you can see things in my life before I'm even there. So I know you're going to steer me in the right direction. My promise to you is that I'm going to show up every moment to my best of my ability to put my life forward. And I trust that you'll lead me in the right way. So the whole quote unquote is God's timing. The universe will give you what you want. Law of attraction. It's all very true, but you also still have a responsibility to show up. God gifted you beatboxing and you're really good at it. You had to do the work. So these breadcrumbs, these gifts, you have to go chase them and make them happen.
I love that. Well, and I've loved how in this episode we've interlaced this theme of trusting God. You know, I kind of, in my rebranding of UPBEAT and changing the logo and everything and changing the descriptions, one of my hopes was to be able to talk about more faith and more God and more how that can help us creative entrepreneurs and people who are dream chasers and building big things. There's a lot out there, but maybe not necessarily that talks about God. So I'm grateful we've been able to bring him into this episode. And at this point, I mean, I don't have another place I'd really like to go, but I would want to ask you, like, are there any other parts of your story that you would want to touch on before we jet out of here, or any other topics, you know, that maybe I didn't ask about that you feel impressed to share?
Man, I feel like my mind goes to so many other places, but I think the one thing that I can share that I can ideally somebody can hear is to just give yourself permission to forgive yourself. Like I talk about, you know, saying your sorries to people so that you can share your story. Well, for example, me stealing from my brother, I believe I told him I was sorry when I was probably 18. I stole money from him when I was like 14, 15. If I had my direction, I definitely would have said sorry prior to that. Like, let's be honest. But I would just say, go through the process of forgiving yourself now. And what that can look like is simply just owning your past. Like, hey, this is what happened. and be uncandidly real with yourself. Really look at that. Like, how did you hurt yourself in that behavior? How did you hurt other people? What were the thoughts, the emotions that you caused for yourself and others? And what I would encourage with that is once you've deciphered that and you don't lie to yourself and you're just true and real, pray to God. Admit it to somebody else. And it doesn't need to be another flawed human being, but pray to God. And ask for forgiveness. Let him know that you're not going to do anything like that ever again. From there, create a strategy, a plan, a goal on how you're going to make that an impact. Like for me, I stole money from my brother. I committed to never stealing again. My mom gives me $1 to go buy something for 99 cents. She's going to get a penny back. That was my commitment. I will never steal again. Make a goal, and when you start to reach for that goal, you're going to naturally leave that in the past, which will give yourself permission to say I'm sorry to other people and to forgive yourself. It's really hard to move forward and build a network, find your purpose, and do these things if you have weights on your shoulders. So go forgive yourself so that you can build a life that God desires for you to have.
Amazing. Thank you, man. Braiden Belnap, everyone, on Upbeat again. Do you mind if we kind of close out with a beatbox of your name?
Dude, I was hoping you would do a beatbox, so absolutely.
Hopefully it doesn't cut out here. We'll see.
Yeah.
It's Braiden Belnap. Braiden, thank you, Braiden Belnap.
Let's go, man. Thanks so much again.
Of course, man. Thanks for being on Upbeat. We'll see you next time, y'all.